Well, we're finally done with All Stars 10. I will definitely do a separate video with a review of the season, mostly, of course, because of the format, since I do think it was a very successful experiment that could use some tweaks, but overall, I quite enjoyed the format and the season. Was it perfect? No, but what is? This season had queens compete in two different formats. The first 3 episodes borrowed the format from All Stars 7. Episodes 10 and 11 had a regular season's format, and then the finale was an 8-queen tournament. I decided to grade the last episode with All Stars 7's format. The queens eliminated first get nothing, so like a safe placement. Queens eliminated in the semi-final get high points, second place in the finale gets top 2 points, and first place gets win points. We calculate the percentage of points of how the queens did in each of the 2 portions, with how many points they earned. We add them together and then divide by 2 to get their final scores. Yes, this is going to be the first ranking video not using the PPE score, which is kinda weird to me, and also please check the links in the pinned comment if you would like to help the local drag scene in North Macedonia. But if you would like to help the channel, since YouTube hates its creators, you can like this video, dislike it, leave a comment, and of course, make sure you're subscribed. You can also become a member of the channel, and I want to thank all of these lovely people here who have become members so far. They have seen this video a little bit before the rest of you, but they already have other videos to watch, some of those being member-exclusive content. Now, let's get back to the video, because we have 18 queens to talk about. We're starting off in the 18th place with Phoenix. She and the next couple of queens earned 0% of the points they could have earned in the season. I don't think anyone assumed Phoenix was going to do well here. In my predictions before the season had started, I assumed that they picked 3 early outs for this cast so that only one of them gets a redemption. And I also assumed that it was going to be Irene. I was right, of course, but Phoenix really felt like a fish out of water in this new format. She didn't have much of a storyline either, really, but it was nice to have her introduced to the newer fans of the show. Although I must say, I would have given her a top 2 spot for the makeover solely because of the comedy that she brought with her look. In the 17th place, we have Alyssa Hunter. Alyssa had a really poor showing in this season. I stand behind what I said. She was wrongfully eliminated on season 14, but her introduction into All Stars 10 was all about her saying that she knows that she got eliminated because of a prop malfunction, which is not true. And then she kept on burying herself with such childish behavior and picking fights with seemingly anyone that called her out on her hypocrisy. She did one thing but said another, but then also she pretended that she stood for something totally different. I don't know, I really soured on Alyssa in this season. Now in the 16th place, we have another queen with 0% of the points, but she actually did advance into the second portion of the competition. It's Cynthia Lee Fontaine. Even with the queens that did not advance, or that did not compete in all 6 episodes, or at least 4 and 5 of them, we still calculate their final score with all of the episode's points in mind. You should not be rewarded for not making it far into the competition, you know? Cynthia, yeah, I mean, like, I love Miss Cuckoo, but nobody really saw her in the cast and then thought, oh, possible winner. However, she really did show that you do get rewarded for being a lovely person. And it's actually a good message to send to the Drag Race audience, myself included, honestly. Also, I think Cynthia now holds the record for the highest amount of episodes competing without placing above the safe placement. In the 15th place, we have Nicole Paige Brooks from Atlanta, Georgia. Nicole is the lowest out of the next couple of queens with the same score because of how many points she got in the actual competition, meaning in the season, not through my point system. However, Nicole had a very interesting storyline. Since she is the oldest queen in the cast, meaning from the oldest season, she needed the longest adjusting period to this new pace of Drag Race. You could tell that she felt like a fish out of water and that her drag was not TV ready. But Nicole got her 5 minutes to shine in the end. After being screwed over by Mistress, Nicole spent episode 5 sulking and being angry, so that by the end of episode 6, she decided to try to be strategic, and she had a pretty good plan: help Carrie advance and take Mistress out of the competition. However, it was too little too late. I wonder what could have happened had each bracket had 4 episodes to compete in. Maybe Nicole's plan would have worked, but we'll never know. In the joint 13th and 14th place, we have, interestingly enough, Deja Skye and Olivia Lux. Both of their track records are the same: safe throughout, but only one high placement. Both of these queens sadly were just accessories to Aja's story in bracket 1. Olivia had a heel turn that was teased by the end of her season 13 run, whereas Deja was shown as a hero that just so happened to be aligned with the villains. Honestly, this season did a lot for the presentation of Deja, because on season 14, she didn't really do much. Here, they showed just how fun and funny, but also vulnerable she could be, so much so that I wish she had advanced instead of Aja. Aja was a non-factor in the second portion of the season, and I think Deja would have done well in Snatch Game and in the talent show. Deja will probably be back on an All-Star season in the future, so I can't wait to see her again. Olivia too, of course, but let's focus a little less on buzzwords next time and more on the competition. In the 12th place, we have Carrie Colby. Carrie had a very interesting storyline this season. Her first episode, she was a villain with Georges and Mistress. Her second episode, she was in limbo. She still had some villainous moments, but she wanted to get revenge for her betrayal. And in her third episode, she completely became a hero, but she still got defeated by the villains. However, she got brought back into the finale over Mistress, essentially getting the last laugh. She still, of course, performed worse than Mistress in the competition, and she was the first not to advance in the finale. Honestly, all props to both Carrie and the production for the story that they told with her journey. 11th place, Acid Betty. This was Acid's face turn moment. She didn't do much in the competition, but she got her redemption from season 8 in regards to her presentation. She was the villain of the first part of the season that needed to be taken out for the rise of Naomi. She was friends with Cynthia after the season, and she helped her during her recovery. And their bond really did show on All Stars 10. It felt more like Acid was there just to have fun and to help Cynthia advance, which of course does make her spot in the cast a little wasted, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's very nice that they show their friendship together. In the 10th place, it's Tina Burner. Oh, I feel so bad for Tina. She really had a great redemption in the season, and I think there was quite a lot of mistreatment thrown her way. I don't get why it's so many queens' instinct to make fun of Tina's drag. Like, okay, sure, on season 13, she was not polished, and she's not a high fashion queen. But the comments Mistress and Carrie mostly made about Tina were low-key disgusting. It was also weird that the judges' critiques for Tina were, you were too good, you had too much energy, you were trying too hard. But then they would also compliment Georges for throwing herself around the stage or Mistress for barely being able to lift her arms past her head. I don't know. Tina's entire presentation on this season was weird, and I think she definitely deserved better. In the 9th place, it's the true robbed goddess of this season, but seemingly really of any season that she's on, Denali. Do I think Denali was robbed of advancing further? Absolutely. The Queen's hypocrisy in that bracket was insane. They kept saying that it should have been Denali who should have won the lip sync against Ginger, but then when it was time for them to give their MVQ points, those points did not go to Denali. They went to Cynthia, like, what? Furthermore, the judges' picks in the end clearly were made to give conclusion to the Carrie versus Mistress storyline, because in the lore presented by the show, it made no sense for Ross to have picked Mistress. Yes, I know that phones exist, it still does not mean they should have left that part of the episode unresolved, and Michelle and TS threw away their vote for Carrie. We all know it should have been Denali back for the lip sync tournament. She would have smoked the competition. She wouldn't have won, but she would have done way more than Carrie and probably would have reached the finale, depending on who the matchups were. Speaking of the villain of the season, in the 8th place, it's Mistress Isabel Brooks. God, her story was so good. She made Bracket 2 her bitch, and I think the second episode of Bracket 2 was the best episode of the season. It does help the show to have these delusional queens on there, just for the sake of drama. Mistress started off the bracket telling us that she was a villain and that she was there to stir the pot. And then she was a villain and she stirred the pot. And then with the minimal help from production, she got into the top 9. I thought that she was going to be a force in the competition, a possible winner even, why not? But then she got 2 bottom 2 placements in a row, she ended up getting eliminated, and in her last episode, she just spent sulking and saying that we all see her as a villain, but she's actually a hero. No, bitch, don't switch it up now. I know that the constructive criticism that she got in those 2 episodes went into one ear and out the other, but the story of this season really was how can we slay Mistress? With Ginger in the end beating Mistress's lackey in Georges as a cherry on top. A well-told story. Good job, guys. In the 7th place, it's Aja. I've already mentioned Aja when talking about Olivia and Asia, but I'll repeat myself. Aja had a good showing competition-wise in her bracket, but once the quote-unquote merge happened, she lost the plot completely. I thought we were going to get All-Stars 3 Aja on here, but we got Season 9 Aja. I still stand behind what I said after her bracket. She was a villain there. She advanced because of her alliance. Yes, she had an episode win, and that was a great showing for her, but after episode 1, Aja really just sat back and let Olivia do all of the dirty work for her, reaping the benefits of the Melanin Alliance in the end. And none of her alliance members advancing with her. A villain does not have to be someone who's rude or overtly strategic, and I think that's why a lot of people don't see Aja as a villainous character, which she absolutely was in those first 3 episodes. In the 6th place, it's Lydia Butthole King Collins. See, Lydia's place in this season was very similar to Aja's place on All-Stars 3. She just got off her season, she didn't do that well on there, but the fans liked her, and Lydia came back with something to prove. She had a great showing during her bracket, but just like Aja, she didn't really excel in the second portion of the season. Actually, her storyline was one of the better ones in the season. She came in as the wildcard queen, and she did well in the competition, but also in the strategic part of the game. She aligned herself with Mistress and Georges, taking Carrie's place in that alliance, and that alliance ended with Lydia taking out Mistress, but then also Georges taking out Lydia. Pure cinema. In the 5th place, we have Daya Betty. Interesting how not much of a factor Daya was in this season. On season 14, she was the main villain, and she was part of the biggest storyline of the season in her feud against Jasmine Kennedy. So it's interesting now to see her not only not being a villain, but not being much of a presence. Yes, of course, she did well in bracket 3, but with how she was presented, you could tell that she was not getting the crown. I think this is the biggest flaw of this season. The cast was huge, so a lot of the queens did not get a proper showing, and if they're not shown to us, you know they're not going to be getting the crown. Kind of like Acid, actually. Daya's story seemed to be more about her friendship with Bosco than anything else, so her ultimate elimination did not seem bitter or sad. She went out so that her friend could advance. In the 4th place, we got the biggest glow-up of this season, Irene the Alien. Oh my god, I love Irene so much. Her domination of Bracket 1 should be studied. The challenges were not designed for her, but she made every single one of those challenges her bitch. The acting that she did in episode 2's acting/improv challenge was diabolically good. Although, I must say, it's interesting how sometimes Drag Race, and of course the fans, care about awarding talent like with Irene, and then sometimes they don't. Ginger Midget. I don't know what happened with Irene in the second portion of the competition. I thought that she was going to keep her streak going, but sadly she got eliminated second from the finale, and technically thus placed 7th in the season, when in another universe she could have won the season. I hope she does not mess up her chances with the next All-Stars she's on, because I would like to see her get crowned. Alright, time for top 3. Being beaten only by like 1% by the queen in the second place, here we have Georges. The queens in the top 3 here absolutely received help from the production in the way that the challenges were given to them. Georges got 2 out of 3 challenges in her bracket to be performing challenges, and then the talent show in itself has simply become lip sync and diddle around the stage for a minute, and we'll choose who we like randomly. And who lip syncs and diddles around the stage better than Georges? Nobody. Not to be mean, because I have had some pretty harsh critiques toward Georges in the past, but why would they want to push Georges? Bosco and Ginger, okay, I get it, but is Georges a fan favorite? Is Georges a queen who unjustly lost the season? Yeah, neither of those two, no. However, this season made me actually like Georges. Well, enjoy Georges. She spent very little time talking, and most of what we see of her was on the runway, either showing off pretty good looks or performing, which is where she excels at. In the second place, it's Bosco, literally by like 1% of a difference. Bosco is a fan favorite, and it makes sense that the show would want to help her stay in the competition. I love that there are people saying, oh, but there was no favoritism of Bosco. The first episode was all about Bosco knowing that the rock-inspired song Challenge is in her wheelhouse, and her knowing that it's a challenge that she could easily win, but that she'll more likely lose, and she ends up losing it. Like, we are literally told that this challenge was made for Bosco. By Bosco! Then it was the improv challenge, and all of Bosco's challenge wins of season 14 were challenges where she had to create a character, improv, or tell jokes. Lastly, the makeover. Irene and Bosco have the most recognizable aesthetics out of their bracket, maybe even out of the entire cast, and who was in the top 2 for that episode? Oh my god, it was Irene and Bosco. Who would have known? Guys, come on now. Bosco is excellent, absolutely, but to pretend that the production did not help her is asinine. This season did make me fall in love with Bosco, though. After season 14, I didn't really get the hype, but now that she's grown and polished her aesthetic to a T, yeah, I get the hype. However, I always knew she wasn't winning the season, because how is she supposed to survive 2 rounds of a lip sync tournament, and then do well enough in the final lip sync so that the show is not forced into crowning the other queen because Bosco did poorly? You could tell losing this season hit her, but Bosco is one of those queens that don't need a crown to be loved by the audience. And in the first place, it's of course Minger Ginge. It's so funny that I made that video a couple of weeks ago saying that in the US franchise of Drag Race, nobody ever will beat Bianca Del Rio's track record, and then this happens. I mean, 90% of the points is an insane feat, and pretending that it wasn't well earned would be foolish. However, did Ginger get help from the production in the challenge department? Yep, she absolutely did. All 3 of the challenges in her bracket were about creating a character and being funny. She wasn't going to Bob Snatch Game, we all knew that, and the talent show, again, it's a free-for-all challenge. They should have done a ball for the top 8 so that there's at least a threat of Ginger landing low or safe in an episode. Even so, she still had to have the talent to do well in those challenges, just like Georges and Bosco, and to deny Ginger the win or her talent would be insane. 2 things can be true at once. Ginger got favoritism, but she also did well. Her story in the season was also good, and it was very well produced. And it continued on from her storylines on season 7, All Stars 2, and All Stars 6. It's poetic in a way. I'm glad Ginger won. The biggest winner of the season, aka the queen that placed the most places above her original placement. Wait, I gotta say how the original placements go. So obviously we start with Ginger at the top, then it's Georges. Lydia and Bosco in theory should be tied here, but Bosco was eliminated before Lydia, so Lydia is technically 3rd in the season, Bosco 4th. Then we go Daya, Aja, Irene, Carrie, before her mistress was eliminated, and before her it's Cynthia. The rest of the queens did not advance from the brackets, and I ranked them based on the amount of episodes they earned on the season, but like the actual points, not my points. I put a stronger emphasis on points won from challenges rather than points given by the queens. Therefore, in the 11th place, it's Denali. Deja and Olivia, funnily enough, shared the 12th and 13th place. After them, it's Tina, Acid Betty, Alyssa Hunter, Nicole Page Brooks, and Phoenix, with Nicole being above Phoenix because she at least had 1 high placement. So the biggest winner of the season is Tina Burner, placing 4 spots above her original placement. The biggest loser, however, the queen that placed the most spots below her original placement, is of course Cynthia Lee Fontaine, with a -6 to her placement, which I think might actually be a record. I'm not sure. Usually now I do notes for the placements, but I think the placements overall were pretty obvious. By the way, the table for this season looks insane. Look at the top row. So we need to do 1st, 2nd, and 3rd competitive episode, as well as episode 12. They have the same format, and that's how we read them. So it's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 12. We divide the final score after episode 12 with 0.12 to get the percentage. Then for the second format, we divide by 0.1 to get the percentage. Of course, like I said, for the queens that didn't advance, the percentage is always going to be 0 in that second part. It wouldn't be fair not to include those, but even if we didn't, the table wouldn't change much. For the first portion of the season, the placements are obvious. The high queens were the ones that were highlighted during judges' deliberations, so it was Bosco, Mistress, and Denali for the first competitive episode, then Deja, Nicole, and Acid for the second episode. Or it was the queens that got the 3rd most amount of positive critiques, and those queens were Acid, Carrie, and Olivia. The placements for the finale I've already mentioned. Next, the placements for the second part of the season were also very obvious, although I have to say I did make only one change, and it was for Aja's placement in episode 11. She got mostly negative critiques, and I don't actually think she got any fully positive critiques. It was just mixed and negative stuff, but she was still called safe. No girl, that's a low placement. And yeah, the final score takes the first percentage and the second percentage, adds them together, and then divides them by 2. And that's it. That's the video. That's the season. Do you think the Right Queen won the season? Are there any unpopular opinions you might have about the season? Leave them in the comments below, and thank you for watching.